All right, you guys, week one of the Built Through Movement program. Today is load versus capacity. I want to introduce one of the most important concepts we use when understanding anything. Load versus capacity is a term that you will use through all areas of your life, not just whether you're dealing with pregnancy or postpartum, beyond, you're an athlete, pain, injury, performance, whatever it is. Load versus capacity is it. If you understand this concept, you'll start to see your body very differently. Instead of feeling like things are random or like your body is broken, we hear this a lot, right? Like, my body's broken. And it's like, no, it's not. And it's not random. You'll start to see that there are actually patterns and variables that we can influence. The goal here is not to just avoid pain or injury or anything. The goal here is to help you live a full, active life without constantly worrying about your body. So, the next few minutes, I want to help you understand why injuries and pain happen, what factors influence them, and what you can actually do about it. I want to start with the bank account analogy. The easiest way to understand load versus capacity is to think about your body like a bank account. Every day, things withdraw energy from that account. Those withdrawals are what we call loads. A load is anything that costs your body energy. Most people think of loads as just exercise, but that's the smallest piece of the entire equation, you guys. Loads can also be physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, poor sleep, nutrition, work demands, life demands. Maybe you're a mom taking care of kids, arguments with people you love. All of these things require energy from your system. So, yes, a workout is a load, but so is a bad night of sleep. So is a stressful day at work. So is being emotionally drained. Now, on the other side of that equation, we have capacity. You'll hear me talk about this a lot through the rest of this program. Your capacity is the amount of stress that your body can handle. This is going to be different for every single person, and it's why you cannot compare yourself to somebody else and where they're at in their life. Their capacity is different than yours because their life is different than yours. Your capacity is the amount of stress your body can handle. I said that twice because it's very important. It is the size of your bank account. As long as your load stays below your capacity, you can adapt and recover. If your load exceeds your capacity, meaning the withdrawal is bigger than the account, you will experience problems. Sometimes, not always, the problems show up as pain. Sometimes they show up as fatigue, burnout, an energy, stiffness, injury. Okay. It's always going to be nuanced. And that's why there's education a part of this program so that you can understand when it shows up far beyond this program through every phase of life. Okay. And it's also why pain isn't always the whole story. Because one important thing to understand is that exceeding capacity doesn't always cause pain immediately. For example, imagine trying to move a couch that's too heavy. You might not feel pain in that moment, but you also can't do the task. Your capacity just wasn't high enough for the load. Now imagine dropping something heavy on your toe. The load definitely exceeded your toe's capacity, and it will probably hurt. Both examples come from the same principle: load exceeded capacity. The three hidden load boxes. Now, here's where things are a little bit more interesting. Most people think, again, exercise is the only thing that they need to manage, right? But in reality, there are three big load boxes that already exist before you even start exercising. We think about like when you're feeling lack of energy or fatigue or you're not recovering from workouts, then we often look at the variable of I'm going to change the workout or the output so that I feel better. But we don't look at the three other hidden boxes that are often the low-hanging fruits that can help you the most where it won't even impact your workouts. In fact, your capacity in your workouts may go up. The first load box is anatomy and injury history. This is called anatomical differences. This includes things like previous injuries, structural differences in your joints, old surgeries, movement compensations, all of those things. Maybe you have a plate in your leg, you had, ACL surgery, so now you have a patellar tendon, use your patellar tendon. All of these things create anatomical differences of what show up in your body. This is important because something just because something exists in your anatomy doesn't mean it's a problem. Many people walk around with structural differences that never bother them. Two hips might be shaped differently. Someone might have an old injury. That doesn't automatically mean pain. There are thousands of people walking around with dislocated discs in their back that operate with no pain. There are even more people that have torn ACLs that never had surgery and are living very, very active lives. This is important because if you start identifying yourselves by your diagnosis, like I have a bad knee, I have a bad back, I have a bad shoulder, you start to believe that that's your only truth, right? Again, this whole program is to show you that that doesn't have to be as good as it gets. Anatomy does not define your potential. There are thousands of people living active, fulfilling lives with injuries in their history. I've helped a lot of them, and the team that I work with has helped even more. What matters more than anatomy is function, okay? The load number two box is recovery. I don't know why. It's the simplest, but yet we overlook it. We think that maybe we're too good for recovery, or we don't need it, or we blame time. Your recovery should be paramount to anything that you do, whether you are training for an ultra marathon or you're just trying to move through motherhood. Recovery is one of the biggest boxes for most people. And it's also the one that we have the most control over. Recovery is largely influenced by three things: stress, sleep, and nutrition. When these are dialed in, your body is in build mode. Okay. When they're neglected, your body is in breakdown mode. Remember, we train for the opportunity to recover. If you never recover, then you're under diminishing returns and you're just doing for the sake of doing and not actually going to get to any real outcome. If you're sleeping poorly, eating inconsistently, and living in constant stress, you're already starting your day with a big chunk of your capacity used up, which means there's less room for everything else. I talk about these in boxes because if you were to look at a chart, I might have a very big box for the anatomical dysfunction. Remember, this is like previous injury, things going on in your body. Load box number two is recovery. Then we have functional movement, which I'll get to in a second. These three boxes, because a lot of times we can manipulate. So recovery, if you need a lot of time and space and things to influence recovery, the box is really big, right? So if your capacity line is up here and your recovery box takes up this much room, then you have only a little bit of bandwidth in a workout before you exceed the threshold of your capacity. So a huge goal is to lower your recovery box, meaning we optimizing recovery so it takes less effort. Therefore, we can exceed capacity. Recovery is a huge foundation for this, okay? Load box number three is functional movement. This is what your body can actually do. This includes things like mobility, flexibility, strength, control, range of motion. At this point, you've either already gone through a movement assessment with me or we're about to, and we go through your actual functional movement capacity. How is your body in ranges of motion for mobility, flexibility? What does your strength balance look like? We will go over this if we haven't already. These are things that through the course of the next 16 weeks, we will influence and shape together through intentional programming. Okay. Basically, this is like what positions can your body get into? How well can you control these positions? If a joint cannot move through a full range of motion, other joints have to pick up the slack. So this is where we might focus on flexibility before mobility. It's nuanced, and that's why we have a movement assessment so we can assess instead of guess on your programming. Everything that we do inside of this program is intentional. When one area does too much work for too long in your body, that's where problems show up, even if it doesn't hurt yet. So improving movement capacity is one of the most powerful ways to reduce stress on the body. That's what your programming will do. Okay. What this looks like in real life. Let's say you wake up with your three load boxes already present. You have some previous injuries, your sleep wasn't amazing, you're a little stressed from work, then life starts. Maybe you have kids, you have to get them ready, you go to work, you sit at a desk all day, you deal with deadlines. Then finally, maybe you get to the gym, you start your workout. The bike feels fine, your push-ups feel okay. Then you get to the lunges. Maybe halfway through the set, your knee starts talking to you. Now you're stuck with a really frustrating choice. Do you stop doing the things you enjoy so you stay out of pain, right? Do you stop the lunge because your knee starts talking to you, or do you keep doing them and deal with the consequences later? A lot of people feel like those are the only two options, but they're not. The better option is this. We reduce the load that we can control and increase your capacity over time. So that's how, if we can improve recovery habits, improve movement quality, improve strength and control, all of these boxes start to shrink. And so your capacity line has more space. That means in the same activities, work, exercise, life, they no longer exceed your system. So this might mean you slept better, we intentionally ate better, we lowered stress in your body. There's other things that we controlled outside of the gym. So now when you get to the gym, you have more range of things you can do before your knee starts talking to you. Do you see how identity is like we can get to that point and we blame our knees? My knees are bad versus, well, how did you sleep? How did you eat? How's your digestion? How's your stress? Those things influence how your knees feel, right? This is how your body can handle more without constantly pushing into pain or breaking down. This is regardless of if you've come to me because you have a specific injury or pain, but in life, right? Two things that matter most: long term staying active and out of pain comes down to managing the loads in your life and intentionally increasing your capacity. That's what we're doing in this program. Together, we're going to continue to look at your movement, your habits, your recovery, your training, and your mindset. This is also that your body becomes more resilient to the life that you actually want to live, not the life that you're forced to live because of what you're experiencing. The goal is to not sit on the sidelines. You have one life. You're here because your goal is to build a body that can handle things that matter to you and that are the most important. That's why I called this program Built Through Movement, because we're going to utilize movement in all of its forms to help you live the most active life that you want without compromise. Compromise are things like time, pain, injury, all of those things. We're going to work on that together. So this week, I really want you to start paying attention to your loads, not just your workouts, everything. How is your sleep? How is your stress? How is your recovery, your movement? Once you start seeing the patterns, you start realizing something really important. You do have more control than you think, and that's where real progress starts. Remember, you can't change what you don't know, and awareness precedes change. So, together, we're going to create the awareness, and that's why this is so much more than just a random program. It's everything. We are going to build your life through movement. This concept of load versus capacity is going to follow you for the rest of this week and into next week. And there will be some journal prompts and reflection questions along the way. Pay attention to them. I can't wait to know what comes up for you. We'll talk about it. Let me know what questions you have and really just sit with it without shame, without guilt. Just notice, what are the loads that you're currently carrying? Because I promise you that you have more control that you think, and together we're going to figure it all out. Okay. Welcome to Built Through Movement, and I am so stoked for you to continue this journey.